In this video, I'm going to be looking at my favourite accessory, the Monopod. Join me. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy with you once again. Welcome to the channel, and if you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button below and the bell to notify you every time a new video is uploaded. And also, if you'd like to give a bit of support to the channel, there's a PayPal link where you can buy me a coffee if you want to. Well, my favourite accessory for photography. All photographers love accessories. We all love GAS, the gear acquisition syndrome. Let's face it, that's why we'll look at reviews and things online for the photography. The fact is, we all want to save some money, but we all are quite happy to spend it on things and then wonder afterwards maybe why we did. I'm sure you've got loads of accessories which are sitting at home and don't get used. Well, one of the things that I bought a good while ago, and it does get used, is this. It's the Monopod. Very, very simple. And today, when we're talking about cameras with in-body image stabilization and good in-lens stabilization, where we can get 5, 6, maybe even 6.5 to 7 stops of stabilization out of it, do we really need a tripod or a monopod? Well, I think we do. So keep watching. I'll show you some of my techniques for using the monopod and why I use them, some of the reasons that I actually enjoy using the monopod and get the maximum out of it, why it's still necessary to use it even with image stabilization, and I've got a little tip right at the end which is going to help you in your video and photography, all for less than £10 or $10 depending on where you are. Keep watching until the end. Well, as we can see, we've got my Olympus OM-D E-M1 Mark II mounted on the camera here, and just in holding it like this we can see we've instantly got more stability than we would have normally. If we're standing here, we're having to try and breathe carefully and make sure we don't sway around the place. Just by planting this down and you put a little bit of vertical pressure onto it, gives us a great deal of stability. Now I'm standing beside the River Irthing in Cumbria. I'm going to take some shots over the side, but I'm going to use the monopod to help give me a bit of steadiness. Now I'm going to take a shot up the river and see how we get on with that with a fairly long lens. Now this handheld would be straightforward, it's not too bad today, there's enough light here, but I really want to give myself some stability, so I'm going to be shooting at the 60mm lens, which is equivalent on a full frame to a 120mm, so it's a medium telephoto length. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down on the ground, pull down slightly with my left hand and lean into it as I take the shot. And what that's going to do is give me a great deal of stability. I'm going to be putting my body weight into it, make it a sort of triangular shape between the monopod, myself, my two legs, my back and my hands. So it's giving us a nice sort of triangular shape which is very, very stable. Let's give it a go. Now I'm fairly confident with that. That's going to give me a really, really smooth, solid shot, which is going to be beautifully in focus because it's going to be stable. There's going to be no worry about it moving at all on there. I'm going to take a couple of other shots on this one at this focal length again. Let's give it a go. And again, just get myself nice and... Now again, I'm just getting myself nice and sorted, nice and comfy, nice and stable, and I'm going to lean slightly into the shot. It also gives stability to make sure that you can actually get the verticals and the horizontals right, because it gives a nice steady platform for you to be able to get if you're using the spirit level in the camera, to get the spirit levels about right. I'm going to take one of the treetops further on as well and just see how we come on with that, because again at 60mm on this at maximum length it's going to be pushing for the detail a little bit. Now this has been at a fairly good speed, so I was shooting at about 400 ISO. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ISO right away down to 100, which on this is an enhanced ISO. It's lower than normal on the Olympus. Normally the bottom line is 200, so I'm pushing it to need more light. That's going to drop my shutter speed down quite a bit, and it's going to make it more difficult to get that really nice shot. But again, I'm expecting to get really good results because I've got a nice steady platform with the monopod. Let's try it again. Now that's a 200th of a second there, 5.6. Now this is really good. The problem is we've got a long leg here which can flex somewhat. I don't know if you can see that flexing at all, but it can get some flexing on it. So there are little tips and tricks that you can use on that. Let's take some of the legs up a little bit and make it shorter. Now what we have here is a wall beside us. And I'm going to use that wall with a shortened monopod, because what that's done is it given me the ability to keep it more steady. You know, if you notice, I've also put the thinner ones away first. It's not good to put the top ones away and leave the thin legs there. That's going to give you less stability. So again, the thicker sections, if we can keep those out, that's going to be even better. So again, let's see what we can do by using natural or man-made items such as walls or rocks or fences to actually shorten the monopod and get even more stability from it. So again, we can see it's actually on the wall now rather than just on the ground. The monopod's only 2 sections long. I'm going to take another shot and see how we get on with this one. Now that also gave me the ability to actually put my leg against the wall and brace myself against the wall as well. So not only was the monopod bracing me, but also the wall was as well. That gives huge amounts of improved stability, and it's all about stability, especially if we're going to go down into lower light areas and where we're going to need slow and slow shutter speeds. So I've taken a couple of photographs on this one, really good. The other thing that we can use this for is just in normal shooting. If I put this away, I've got a nice short stick now, but even in normal shooting I can use this to hold the camera. And not only that, I can actually brace it against my body. So as I'm taking a shot with the monopod on, it's quite possible to lean in and brace it against your own body. Very useful on that. So if you've got any sort of stability problems, you're on uneven ground, anything like that, you've got this as an extra handle. The other thing is as well, if you are somewhere and you need a bit of stability because you're going up and down rocks or something like that and you want to make sure you don't drop your camera, you've got a great handhold on there as well as the strap. And quite often I'll use the strap and that as a handhold, and it gives us a really good ability to keep the camera nice and tight, nice and secure, nice and safe. Now I'm going to do something which is really rather silly. It's a silly shot, but what it is, there's a waterfall behind me and it's at the opposite side of the river. I want to try and get some of that creamy sort of shot that we get with the moving water. Now that requires a slow shutter speed. We've got plenty of light here, although we are underneath the bridge. But to try and get the creamy creamy background of the water does take a slow shutter speed. Normally I'd get closer. Normally I wouldn't shoot it on this lens because I'm going to be using a 60mm lens from across the river. But I'm going to give it a go. And how I'm going to do it again is by using the monopod. Now what the monopod's going to give me is that little bit of extra stability to get a really slow shutter speed. And yes, I know that there's going to be people saying, well, you've got in-body image stabilization. That's not the point. The point is I'm taking the camera way away from it, from the extremities of what it can actually take a photograph of, and bring it into a more usable range. So in other words, instead of the in-body stabilization and the lens stabilization being pushed to the maximum to hold it, I'm giving them a hand. I'm taking them away from that so that there's latitude. So if I do accidentally move, I'm not at the extreme limits of those functions, because they are, remember, just a mechanical movement inside. So the more I can do to make it easier, the even slower I can get a shot. And I'm going to try several shots at different speeds. I'm going to set this onto speed priority because I want this to be able to set the speeds of what I want to do. I've also got the ISO on 100 still, which again means that I'm pushing it a little bit to the limits. I may adjust that if it gets too bad, but I'll see what happens. So let's take a few shots and see how we get on. Different speeds to try and get those water effects lessened. So we can get some really good shots. I've got some good expectations for these, and I was shooting at 1 second. Now, I'm nearly 60. It's getting harder and harder for me to keep steady. When I was much younger, I was much better at this. As I'm getting older, it becomes a little bit more difficult to keep steady and to keep a good shot. But by using a monopod, just to give me that extra little bit of help, really works. Now, as I say, I was shooting down at 1 second at f/22 on a 60mm lens, way across the river. Totally the wrong way to do a shot like that. But to be able to get anything usable like that would normally be impossible. So let's see how we do get on with it. Now the other thing that I did was I sat down. Rather than just standing up with it, I made use of the natural things around me. So there's a bit of a step here, and I sat down. That gave me even more stability, and it meant that I could cut the tripod length down, just do a couple of feet, give that more stability, and again that gives a far better chance of getting that shot, which is after all what we're after at the end of the day. Now what I've just done there is I've used the self timer to set the camera off, and then we get the ability to push down hard on the monopod just to give it even more stability without having to worry about shock as I release, and get myself nice and stable before the shutter ever releases. Now there are limitations with using monopods which you've got to be aware of and got to be careful of. First of all, the biggest problem with a monopod for me is a fixed head. On a tripod you can adjust the camera, but on this you've got to move yourself. And the problem that you have on that is if you're trying to take something which is fairly well above yourself, then the tripod is sitting at a high angle. Now that makes it very, very difficult, but I've got a way around it, and it cost me less than £10. £10, $10 on eBay, it'll do a treat. And it's this. It's a little extension. It's a movable head, just like you could have on any sort of tripod head. Movable on there, and it's got a standard 1/4" screw on the bottom and a 1/4" screw plate on the top. Let's put it on and let's see how we get on with it. Now I love this. I find it's a really useful little accessory. If it just doesn't do it and make it quite floppy, keep my camera in my hand, I put my little strap through because the strap really does give you a lot more stability. But this is absolutely fantastic for me because what it allows me to do is to put the camera, the monopod down. And what I can do is I can bring it to my eye, and if I'm wanting to do something low down, I can actually pull back, hold it, but I can hold the camera steady and take the shot. If I want to do something high up, what I can do is I can actually have the tripod there and I can lean forward into it, and the tripod's going to move. And if I want to be looking up slightly, I can look up and I can still get the shot, but with a full stability. Again, if I want to be taking a shot at the ground, I can put the tripod out, the monopod out in front of me, look down, and again have stability. Super little piece of kit, wonderful to do. If you want to sniff it up a little bit, you can just slightly lock that. It'll give you a little bit more friction in the head. Now again, if you're using video or stills on this, it's just as much of an advantage. If you're shooting a video shot, yes, again the in-body stabilisation is going to really help you. But again, if you can keep it away from its extremities, you're giving it a much better chance to do a better job. So if you're shooting video on this, it really is wonderful. If you don't have a tripod to hand, most of my videos tend to be tripod mounted because I'm on my own. But if you're shooting a video with something else and you just want that extra little bit of stability, using the adaptable head and also the monopod will give you an awful lot better chance to get that super smooth, super slick shot. You just seen a mouse run past. Goodness. It'll give it a better chance to get a super smooth, super slick shot without the mouse running past. But I said that it was an even better thing for this. Well, I've got a couple of cameras which I take these videos on. As I've just said, I'm on my own most of the time, and that causes me some problems. I want to be able to do some moving shots. I don't have a GoPro. I can't really put the money into paying for a GoPro because I don't use it often enough, and a mobile phone doesn't really have the quality of that. But if I want to do some selfies, but what I can do is I can use this as a selfie stick. It's nice and easy, it's not too long, I can actually adjust the length to what I want it to. But by locking off the head here, it's given me the ability to actually use it as a selfie stick for the cameras that I've got. And that's great, let's give it a go, let's see what we get on with it. Now I'm having to be careful on this because I don't want to be falling in the river. You'd probably enjoy it if I fell in the river, of course, because it would give a little bit more fun at the video, but I'm not wanting to. This is Cumbria, and although it's summer in Cumbria, nice and warm during the day, that river is going to be cold, I can promise you that. But as I say, this is a really useful little device, this selfie stick. It's nice and steady, it's nice and firm in my hand. I'm going to have a little wander around. If I keep on looking at the screen to the side, I keep it off to one side just to make sure I don't fall in. But as you can see, it's nice and stable, nice and easy. And this stick, this is a Manfrotto monopod, cost about £30. It wasn't expensive and it's really well made. The little adapter on the top, as I say, I just found on eBay. There's all sorts of adapters like this that you can get for the 1/4" fittings. And this has made, to me, an ideal little selfie stick. I'm using the Olympus OM-D E-M1 Mark II, and this is the Lumix 12-60 f3.5 to 5.6. So it's not a small combination, it's not a particularly light combination. We're talking about the heavier end of Micro Four Thirds, yet it's stable, it's easy enough to carry, so it's very, very useful on this. The sound, of course, I do apologise, the sound is coming straight from the Olympus. I've got no idea what it's going to be like because my microphone's on the G9, which is taking the main video. But if you've enjoyed this video, my name is Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy, and I'm going to go on to this one. So once again, this is Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy, back on the G9 again, saying thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification for messages every time I upload a video, and give me a big thumbs up. That really helps YouTube to spread these videos so that more people can see them and get the hints and tips from it. And if you do get inclined, there's a PayPal link before. Thank you to everybody who has given me a subscription on that. It really is appreciated. I keep on saying it's for a cup of coffee, but actually it keeps the channel going. And if you have comments to make, don't forget to leave comments. I'm really, really interested in any comments you make, and I'm sure that a lot of the other watchers are too, judging by the fact that they reply to the comments. Do you use a monopod? Do you find that you need a tripod? Do you find that it aids your shooting? Or does the in-body and the in-lens stabilisation work perfectly well for you? Let me know below. I'm really interested to find out. My name is Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy. Until the next time, keep going out, keep shooting, and keep enjoying your photography. Bye-bye.